Hey everyone, this is Mason, and you're listening to Herb Rally. Today's episode is another edition of the Herbalist Hour, and this time I'm joined by Holly Bellebuono. So, Holly is an herbalist, author, and a business coach, and we go quite a bit in depth on entrepreneurship in this episode. We also chat about how her parents influenced her work, being a community herbalist, women healers of the world, 3 ways to build confidence as a business owner, and a whole lot more. Also, Holly is providing the Herb Rally audience with a limited time discount code for her school, and that's going to be $400 off the Bellebuono School of Herbal Medicine's online community herbalist training program when paid in full. So the coupon code is Herb Rally, and that is valid through March 15th, 2024. To learn more and register, just click the link in the podcast show notes. Also, before we get into the show, I'd like to tell you about the clinical and business mentorship offered by Sovereignty Herbs. That's with Erika Galentin. So this is a 5-month online interactive intensive for landing the leap from herbalism student to a clinical practitioner. And here is what one of the graduates of the clinical and business mentorship said. They said, "This course saved me years of research, provided me visibility to a group of peers navigating similar obstacles and questions, and a clear roadmap for getting more serious about serving my community." So this online interactive intensive seeks to demystify and unpack the many facets of the business side of clinical practice, remove some of the startup guesswork, and prime you for the real-life experience of working one-on-one with clients. In this course, Erika shows you how to structure and build a safe, ethical, and profitable clinical practice with her 8-step business building blocks curriculum that will guide you for forming a solid foundation for launching into your clinical herbal practice with confidence and clarity, even if starting your clinical practice means working with only a few clients a month. So I've known herbalist Erika Galentin for many years, and I cannot recommend her teachings enough. If you'd like to learn more, you could go to sovereigntyherbs.com/business-mentoring. Or I will leave a link at the tippy top of today's podcast show notes. One more time, that's sovereigntyherbs.com/business-mentoring. And yeah, if you're looking to go from herbalism student to clinical practitioner, definitely check out this program with Erika. Also, before we get into the show, I'd love to thank our presenting sponsor, and that is, of course, Oshala Farm. So Oshala Farm is a beautiful and vibrant certified organic farm located in southern Oregon, where they grow and sell over 80 medicinal plant species. I've been to their farm many a time, so I've had the opportunity to check out what an amazing operation it is. They have a state-of-the-art drying facility, and yeah, all the plants are just incredibly beautiful. Lots of different plant species, plant families. So check them out at oshalafarm.com. That's OSHALA farm.com. If you're looking to purchase bulk or even just a little bit of dried herbs, they also sell elixirs, fire cider, tea blends, spices, and so on. So one more time, thanks to Oshala Farm for being the presenting sponsor for the Herbalist Hour. Learn more about them at oshalafarm.com. Also, a huge shout out and thanks to all of our Herb Rally Schoolhouse members for your support as well. If you'd like to learn more about what the Herb Rally Schoolhouse is, you could go to herbrally.com/schoolhouse, and don't forget to use coupon code podcast at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. That's going to do it for my rambling today. Hope you enjoyed today's episode with Holly Bellebuono. Talk to you soon.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm really excited to have on Holly Bellebuono. Welcome to the show, Holly.
Thanks. Really glad to be here.
Yeah, excited to get to know you a little bit more. First things first, I was researching for the show, and sounds like your mom and dad were pretty interesting people. I'm just kind of curious how they influenced you as an herbalist and as an entrepreneur, and just maybe you could share some stories about them.
Okay, sure. So they're both still living. They're both retired. My dad was a lifelong pharmacist, registered pharmacist, and my mom was a registered nurse. And she worked primarily in surgery, doing helping us and assisting in hand surgery as a nurse. And they were both super medical. My whole family, really, all my aunts and uncles, everybody's into medicine in some shape or form. And then here I come along and I go into herbalism, so I'm kind of the black sheep.
Yeah,
But
right.
they were super inspirational because they brought myself and my brother and sister up in a family of inquiry and curiosity and academic learning, and the idea that education is the most important thing that you can do with your life is to learn, learn, learn. And it was really great on the herbal side to learn about chemistry and anatomy and be involved in these conversations with my parents who were constantly talking about their work, which involved anatomy and physiology. And then also on the business side, because my dad was an entrepreneur running his own pharmacy. So I learned a lot from them. It was a really positive way to grow up and develop my career interests.
How do they feel about your work now as an herbalist? Do they still think it's kind of like hippy dippy stuff, or do they see the value in it?
I think they see the value. I think they're really proud of me. They're really fascinated with herbalism now that I've kind of brought it to their attention. My dad has always loved plant medicine. That's one of the reasons he became a pharmacist. He was always fascinated with plant chemistry. And so I've
Right.
actually got a number of his from the 1960s pharmacognosy books from university. And so he and I have some really great conversations about herbalism and pharmacy and that whole intersection. My
Oh,
mom currently, unfortunately, has Alzheimer's. So she's in a nursing home, a memory care facility. But until then, she, I think, was really proud of the direction I was taking, even though she didn't quite understand it. She was a die-hard through and through registered nurse. So,
for sure. Yeah, I've had a friend once who was looking at becoming a pharmacist. He actually ended up becoming a nurse as well, and I feel like he's always kind of looked down upon the herbal route, and I kind of feel like him going into pharmacy would have been like the actual real, you know, herbalist, so to speak. But I think he's come around as well to like respecting what we do here with herbs, because a lot of these drugs are made out of plants, right? I mean, it's kind of similar thing there, but
yeah,
uh,
both my parents really saw the science behind it, so so that was it's really
sure.
good to be have them appreciate it that way.
So you would say a lot of your herbalism base is based around science and anatomy and physiology and so on.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really where I come from and I see the value of it and I really like that. I in my courses I teach the anatomy and physiology, basic chemistry. I'm not a chemist by any means, but I teach the foundations of it and how it relates to botanical therapeutics. So that's the direction I come from.
And just to say it right off the bat, your school is the Holly Bellebuono School of Herbal Medicine, if I'm getting
Yes.
that
Yeah.
correctly. And that's hollybellebuono.com where you can learn more about that. So kind of sticking in your past a little bit, I know you studied with David Hoffman.
Mhm.
Just curious about that experience. David is an awesome guy. We did an interview with him a couple of years ago, and his videos are like some of the most watched videos on our channel. People adore him, and I'm just kind of curious what that experience was like, what you learned from him, and any stories you'd like to share about David.
So I've met him a number of times at
Yeah.
conferences and workshops. I've taken classes with him in person, but the main course that I took with him was an online course that I did back in the 90s, the mid 90s, and it was revelatory. It was eye-opening because he's just such a great guy, like you said, but he's the way he approaches things is very holistic. It's science blended with compassion and an understanding of the universe and life and energy without getting too woo-woo. He really has a lovely way of balancing those together, which I really learned a lot from.
The English accent doesn't hurt either.
Right.
Um, awesome. Well, it does sound like you also had I was reading somewhere, maybe it was a blog post or your bio, you had on the job, quote unquote, training with old timers in Appalachia. I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah, so that's when I was in graduate school, I went to App State University, and I got a graduate degree, a master's degree in public administration, environmental policy. And while I was there, I was also running my herbal apothecary on the side, and I was doing landscaping and gardening. Had some great gardening jobs at different inns and B&Bs. And while I was living out in the woods of Western North Carolina, I made it a point to go around and meet a lot of my older neighbors who were natives of the area who grew up there in the valleys and the hollers, and was really lucky enough to be taken kind of under the wing by a couple of them. One in particular who I would just go out with her on her daily walks, and she would tend to her cows and show me around and introduce me to plants, and really gave me that authentic view of what herbal medicine is. So not so much the book view, that I got from David Hoffman, which was excellent, and it was based on facts and science and chemistry, but her view, her perspective of a lifelong engagement with herbs as this is just what you do because you live in the middle of nowhere and there's no doctor around.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
that was really eye-opening. I really enjoyed that. Talking with her and a few other kind of old timers to learn the folklore behind herbal medicine and how to treat yourself for first aid when you're out in the wilderness and there's nothing around. What can you use? What can you eat? Really fun stuff. That was the basis of my wildcrafting and foraging experience.
Do you recall any plants back then that like really called out to you? Any specific plant allies that you had?
Yeah, some of the first ones I learned about were Sweet Cicely, and
Mm,
I actually named my first apothecary Sweet Cicely herbs, um, Solomon seal, because you could pull it up and eat the root. So that was an
mm,
early edible I learned about. Um, Plantain, just because it's everywhere and you can't help but learn about it when you're
sure.
starting out, and it's so useful. Those were some of my early ones. And
For sure.
poke, interestingly,
Hmm.
because in Western North Carolina, there's a ton of poke growing everywhere. And that became one of the first things that I experimented with. So in my early 20s, I was really big into experimentation, just learning what happens if you put it in vinegar, what happens if you put it in alcohol, um, what can you make with it? Anything, can it go in a bottle? Can it go in a jar? Does it go on your skin? All of that was just trial and error fun, just getting to learn the plants. And then over the years, I kind of honed that into, okay, this is what I'm really interested in here. I'm going to go this direction, and this is what I really want to focus on.
For sure. Are you still based in North Carolina?
No, I'm in Massachusetts now.
Oh, wow. What prompted that move?
My ex-husband got hired up here with a company on Martha's Vineyard. So
Oh,
I let go of Little Sweet Cicely Herbs Apothecary and we moved to Martha's Vineyard and I set up Vineyard Herbs Teas and Apothecary. Um,
awesome.
and I ran that apothecary for 11 years, had a blast, took on mentors and apprentices and interns and did a lot of teaching. And then I sold that business to another herbalist in 2016.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to talk to you more about your entrepreneur path. That fascinates me. It seems like you've done a lot of different businesses and various things in that realm. So yeah, it would be great to learn more about that. But before we move on, do you have any other herbal mentors you'd like to attribute, or are those kind of the main ones that you had?
Hmm. Going to, we were so lucky to have New England Women's Herbal Conference and
Oh yeah.
the International, and so many great places where we could go and meet people. I met so many incredible herbalists that just blew my mind. And I was thrilled to be able to sit and talk with them or plan projects with some of them, and then ultimately interview a number of them for my book, Women Healers of the World. Um, one of the people who really imprinted on my heart the most was Raylene Kawaea. I don't know if you ever met her.
I don't think I have. That's a new name for me.
She was amazing. Here,
Mhm.
in my book, I've got a big picture of her.
Yeah.
She's the most incredible woman. I don't know if
So
you
for
can.
those watching on YouTube, you get to uh, see this beautiful woman here, Raylene. Oh yeah, yeah, I've actually heard of her before for
Yeah,
sure.
she's
Yeah.
she was a Hawaiian healer, a kahuna.
Okay.
She passed away a number of years ago tragically in a car accident. But
Oh no.
she traveled widely and really shared the heart and soul of Hawaiian healing with people. La'au Lapa'au, Hawaiian herbal medicine, and she really taught compassion and listening. So it's just so interesting how every herbalist has their own, little segment or specialty that they really share with people. For some, it's science. For some, it's like Raylene, it's that compassion, it's that listening skill. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention her as one of my top mentors.
Absolutely. You mentioned the International Herb Symposium. Was she at one of those? Because I want to say maybe she was, and I think I did catch her there. Was
I
she on
think,
stage? Yeah.
yes, I think she
Oh,
was there teaching hula,
okay.
and she was also at the New England one
Oh,
year.
gotcha. Okay. Just a quick break from the show to thank our presenting sponsor, Oshala Farm. Oshala Farm is a beautiful and vibrant certified organic herb farm based in Southern Oregon, where they grow and sell over 80 different plant species. The founders, Elise and Jeff Higley, have been longtime friends, so I highly trust their growing methods and ethics. You'll love the potency and vibrancy of all the herbs they have to offer. To learn more and purchase their herbs and other organic goods, head to oshalafarm.com. So thanks once again to Oshala Farm for sponsoring the Herbalist Hour. Now back to the show. Enjoy. I was perusing your blog and you wrote a blog post called "Should I Be a Community Herbalist?" So in your mind, is herbal medicine inclusive? So if you want to go on any sort of rant or tell us what that blog post was about, if you recall what I'm referring to, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah.
Sure. So, I could just preface that with, I get a lot of questions every year, hundreds of questions from different people that make me realize that the average person doesn't really know what herbal medicine is. There's a lot of confusion out there about what herbal medicine is and what it does. So, for instance, I get asked, what's it like being vegetarian? I'm not
That's
vegetarian.
hilarious.
Yeah.
I
But
haven't
you're
heard
an
that
herbalist.
one.
Yeah, you're an
Yeah.
herbalist. You should be vegetarian. And
I've
I
heard
also get,
pothead, but I haven't heard that one.
yeah, right. I also get asked, can you talk to me about your experience with psychedelics and mushrooms?
Sure.
Like, well, no, I don't have much of an experience with that. That's not what the herbal medicine that I do is. And then, of course, people confuse homeopathy and herbal medicine. But the biggest thing that I get is, what's the magic bullet?
Mm,
What is the herb that I should take for XYZ that's going to cure me?
yes.
All the time. I'm sure every herbalist gets that, right? So,
Yeah.
so really thinking about should I be a community herbalist? It's this whole idea of, what's my role in herbal medicine? Do I want to be a clinician? If so, I'm more of a nurse type person helping people heal. Am I more of an educator? In that case, I'm helping dispel some of these misunderstandings and misconceptions about this tradition. So many different ways you could approach herbal medicine. And should I be a community herbalist? Basically, the answer is if you want to, yes, definitely pursue it. In my opinion, it's very inclusive. It can
Yeah.
be. It's for anyone. It's people's medicine. It can be as lowbrow and low key as you want, or it can be as clinical and, as you want. Everyone is different, and that's what I like to share with my students is that the way you pursue your your gifts and what you contribute, your contributions is different. Everybody does it differently, and there's a place for everybody's approach.
Absolutely. What would you say your main approach at this moment in time is as for being an herbalist?
You know, I think I do two things primarily. I teach the science of herbal medicine and I help people get a grip on what herbal medicine can do, what plants are and what they do. And then I also help people find their self-agency.
Hmm.
That's really important to me is helping people build their confidence, get independent, approach herbal medicine because it gives them I don't want to say a sense of power, but it is empowering,
Totally.
and that self agency, that interdependence on the plants. Um, it can be really rewarding. It can be really freeing. Somebody who comes to herbal medicine from the allopathic tradition of going to the doctor will find that they are really empowered with knowledge and that they don't have to rely on somebody else for the most part. I think there's a balance there. Obviously,
Sure.
we have to use common sense when we need to, but um, that's one of the things that I really like to do is show people their self-agency.
Absolutely. Well, you brought up confidence, and I was going to say this for the second half of the show, but maybe we'll just get right into it right now. You posted on your Instagram 3 ways to build business owner confidence, and I suspect this will work for the aspiring herbal entrepreneur out there as well. So I was just going to read each of these 3 bullet points, and I was hoping you could expound upon that. if you wouldn't mind. So this is 3 ways to build business owner confidence. Embrace your identity, experiences, and uniqueness. No one else can be you. Leverage your individuality to make your business shine. I really loved that one. Could you expound upon that?
Yeah, it's one of the things that I've learned being an entrepreneur and a business person over the past 30 years is that if you try to do what somebody else already does, you're not going to do it well. If you try to be somebody else or copy somebody else, it just won't work. You have to be yourself and you have to put out there the gifts that you have and what only you can bring to the table. And that is why most people succeed, I think, is because they're being innovative, they're being unique, and they're being authentically themselves. Um,
Mm.
if I tried to be David Hoffman you know, and imitate exactly what he does, it wouldn't work. If I tried to be Raylene Kawaea or any other person, as an herbalist, it simply wouldn't work because that's not me. And if you're a business person, your customers sense that immediately. Your stakeholders, your shareholders, your audience, they sniff out authenticity or a
Mm.
lack thereof really quickly. So as a business person, I think identifying what makes you unique is the best way to go.
Yeah, like I said, I love that. And I was just interviewing Lauren Haynes yesterday, and she's the owner of a brand called Wooden Spoon Herbs. Beautiful brand, great products. And this is like she makes tinctures and teas, and she sells a magnesium product and stuff. But she brought this point up a few times throughout, just kind of nonchalantly. She's essentially saying she puts blinders on. She's not like looking at what her competition's doing, and it allows her to just kind of move forward with her creativity and be the best wooden spoon herbs she can be. And I absolutely love that point. So your second bullet was or is take risks. Ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen if I try this? Often you'll find that the worst is a bruised ego, but the rewards of trying could be huge.
So in entrepreneurship, risk taking is huge. Many years of my careers have been spent working in the nonprofit world. And there's a huge difference between the
Mm.
mindset of nonprofits and entrepreneurs. And the biggest difference is the willingness to take risks. Entrepreneurs have that innovative spirit where they're willing to experiment and do trial and error, which can make or break a company or a product. And it's, in my opinion, um, the most energizing way to go forward.
Mm.
For instance, when I was running my apothecary Vineyard Herbs, I had run it for years and years, and I just had this little thought in the back of my head that I should start an herbal school.
Mm.
That I was already teaching classes and workshops, but I hadn't actually launched an official school. And it was a little scary, honestly, at the time. I had little kids. I wasn't sure if I had the imposter syndrome kind of
Sure.
going, like, is this really something that people would take seriously coming from a young person who makes tinctures and salves and sells at the farmer's market, that kind of thing. But launching that school, taking that risk and putting my money in as an investment and my time and putting myself out there as I'm a teacher, I run an herb school. It was one of the best things. It absolutely proved successful and in so many ways, not just financially, but the people that I've met, the students that I've had in my cohorts and my lessons have been the most incredible people I've met. And I wouldn't have met them and had those experiences if I had hung back and not taken that risk and said, maybe not. So it can be
Absolutely.
scary. I think it can be really scary for an entrepreneur to not only launch a new product or a service, but to launch an entirely new business.
Right.
It's huge. It's a huge endeavor. And you've got to be able to give yourself a little grace and say, if it doesn't work, I've tried my best, but it might work.
So do you still experience the imposter syndrome, or have you kind of worked your way out of that at this point?
Oh no, it pops up frequently.
Sure.
It's always there.
Absolutely.
Every time I try a new path or a new course or a new
Yeah.
coaching program, that sort of thing, it's always popping up. And I just have to remind myself, I've earned this. I've done it. I'm learning. Everybody else out there is learning too, and we're all in it together.
And that's kind of how we build confidence in this whole herbal business thing is by facing the fear, having the courage, moving forward, doing it, and then the imposter syndrome could maybe fade eventually as you develop that confidence by taking these, I would say, calculated risks. You're not necessarily saying bet the farm on every decision you make, and if you mess up, you're going to go bankrupt or something like that. I suspect that's not what you're saying.
Right. No, not at all. And then, it goes back to that first point, be unique and honor
Yeah.
what is unique about you, is that there could be 1,000 herbal apothecaries, in
Right.
the country. Just, I don't know how many there are. It's probably tens of thousands. I don't know. But
Wow.
they're all unique. They all sell something similar, but there's something that makes them special too. And taking that risk and saying, this is what makes me special can be a real business booster.
Absolutely love it. All right, the third and final one under that list is learn all you can. Business knowledge will fuel confident decisions and approaches.
Yeah, and so for learning, I encourage my students and anyone I talk with, go to workshops, go to brainstorming sessions, get a mentor, get a brainstorming partner, get an accountability partner. All of these different ways of learning really push you to meet your goals. So it doesn't have to be you have to go to MBA school and get a business degree, but it's expand your horizons in ways that will um, encourage you to take risks,
Yeah.
basically, calculated, informed risks, but giving yourself that opportunity to learn is really key. And I think it's important to think as we get older, some of us, it's easy to look back at 20-year-olds and say, well, they're going to school, they're in college. Of course, it's their time to learn. Me, I'm 50 or I'm 60, I'm past it. And that's not true. We can learn and we can start new careers even at later ages. It's never too late to start something new and to learn.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of herbalists are kind of repulsed by learning about business or marketing or this or that, but I feel like it's also incredibly important as well. Do you have any advice for, say, the herbal entrepreneur who views businesses or entrepreneurship as like an evil thing, or like, do you have any thoughts on that? Because you are
Yeah.
a business person and an herbalist at the same time.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's scary, or they
Yeah,
look at the numbers like, oh, I can't do QuickBooks or I can't do
right.
Excel sheets because that's scary. It requires numbers. Um, and I encourage you, A, to learn it, try it, do the best you can, and also B, build your team. If you're
Yeah,
not a QuickBooks or a numbers person, bring somebody onto your team who is, so that you can combine your skill set, and your business will grow in that way. You don't have to be everything.
yeah,
That's another thing I teach my students is you don't have to be, a lot of people here's a metaphor. A lot of people look at the pilot of an airplane flight as
yeah,
the head person. But the pilot couldn't make the flight happen if it weren't for the FAA
right.
organizing all the flights on the ground. It couldn't make the flight happen if it weren't for the stewardess, or flight attendants, right? Because they're managing the people and the audience. It couldn't make the pilot couldn't put the fuel in the plane to make it go, right? You need a team around you who have their own skill sets that you don't necessarily have, so that when you come together, your flight takes off. But I also encourage people to look a little bit higher than that. Um, you need to be the pilot of your flight, most likely, or the captain of your ship when you're running a business, but you also need to be the owner. So if you're the owner of that airline, you're calling the shots. It's your vision
Yeah,
that is moving the business forward, and you're hiring the pilot and the flight attendants and the fuel person. It's another way of thinking about risk taking in a way. You don't want to put all that burden on you. You can't run a whole business if it's just you. You have to build that team, and thinking of yourself um, as the owner of that business. You really get that CEO perspective. That is going to help you move forward more than anything, because people will join you. People will be inspired by you. They'll come to work with you, whether they're employees or subcontractors, in person or remote, it doesn't matter. You're steering the ship for everyone. You've got the vision, you've got the purpose, you've got the core values, and bringing people together with that kind of Leadership is really what's crucial to making a business happen, whether you're an herbalist or any kind of business, but especially in the natural products industry. We really need that kind of big picture thinking to move our businesses to the next level.
If you're a, say, a smaller herbal products maker or some sort of smaller herbal entrepreneur, do you recommend folks create some sort of like mission statement or like say some sort of annual goal? How do you kind of see that?
Yeah, so well, I look at those two things as different. Your
Sure.
mission statement is what you share with your audience. This is what we're striving for as a company. This is our purpose.
Yeah.
Your goals can be more internal. I have
Yeah.
a 90-day goal. I have a 6-month goal. I have a 1-year goal. But yeah, I think writing them down, sharing them verbally with your team. If you don't have a team, sharing them with a friend or a colleague or your partner, just getting them verbalized so that you can articulate where you're going.
Yeah.
And that's what will help people determine if they want to work with you, if they want to buy your product, if they want to buy your service. If they've already bought your product or your service, how can they buy more because they see this inspiring direction coming from you?
Yeah. Amanda, who's my wife and co-owner of Herb Rally, we're constantly trying to like narrow down what is our actual goal. And I will notice that sometimes it shifts and changes, but I feel like we find the most success is when we like hone in on like one thing and just work really hard towards that. Because I feel like when our attention is spread, we're just not really doing a whole lot of anything. We're just kind of spinning our wheels. So we found that having one, maybe two, like really focused goals is our best way to help, move the business forward. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I've found the same thing. And it's hard when you're a creative herbalist or just a creative person. You have so many
Yeah.
ideas and so many
Yeah.
directions you want to go. I want to make this and I want to make that and then I want to do this.
Mm.
And it can be so fun.
Yeah.
Um, but it can also be a little distracting.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you only have a limited amount of time and money and energy, you want to put that into one or maybe two goals and
Yeah.
see it through to the very end. It's the idea of building a bridge from where you are to the next island. And if
Mm.
you only build a bridge halfway, and then you start
Yeah.
another project and you start
Yeah.
building that bridge, pretty soon you have a lot of little mini bridges
Yeah.
and none of them have reached that other island yet.
Right.
Yeah. And
You're full of great metaphors. I love it. Well, how do you see hiring? You mentioned being like the captain of the ship. Eventually, you might have to hire somebody to, kind of delegate and so you could focus on the big picture stuff. Do you kind of start with freelancers or how do you look at hiring? What do you like look for in an employee and stuff like that?
So there are a lot of different ways you can go about it. What's worked for me the best is to hire contractors who are
Hmm.
specialists in something that I'm not very good at. So
Hmm.
for instance, I'm really good at curriculum design and I'm good at teaching, but I'm not very good at social media.
Mm.
So I hire somebody out to do social media. Or I'm also my courses are on the Kajabi
Oh
platform.
yeah.
And I'm definitely not a Kajabi expert, so I hired somebody to design all my curriculum on Kajabi for me. So it's that kind of team building, bringing on people for specific jobs. Other herbalists will hire out somebody to be a customer service representative, for instance, or a product developer, that sort of thing. So it really just depends on what you need, but I suggest that you start with somebody as a contract. You get to know them, you get to figure out what it is your business needs, how much of it you need, is it part-time, full-time position? And then if it is full-time, work toward building an employee base, which can be intimidating because when you have employees, you've got employee taxes and you possibly need to pay health benefits and that sort of thing, which really is a next level step when you're hiring. So I recommend starting small and on a contractual basis.
Absolutely. So you use Kajabi. Do you like Kajabi?
I'm getting the hang of it.
I've signed up for it here and there and kind of experimented, but we're still on a Squarespace. But yeah, Kajabi, I've heard some good things about it. So, well, let's talk more about the Bellebuono School of Herbal Medicine. I know you've got some sort of course coming up, but I believe you have several different evergreen type of herb classes. So tell us more about the school and what kind of classes and whatnot you have coming up.
Thank you. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've run an herbal medicine school since 2011. But all of my courses I always taught in person and I
Oh,
loved it. It was fun, but it's gotten to the point now where my courses need to be online and I'm excited about it. And so this past year we've spent getting all my curriculum online. So I've got a number of courses. I've got a class called Herbs for the Brain and Neurodegenerative Diseases that covers Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, depression. It teaches how nerves work, neurons, neuron paths, synapses, neurotransmitters. It's a basic beginner course for herbs for the brain. I've got a course called Herbs for Mama and Baby.
hmm,
So it's really the basic self-care that you would need during pregnancy, childbirth, breastfeeding, and infant care. Um, And it's really for mothers at any stage and midwives and doulas
okay.
to learn about the herbs and how they work for those special needs. Um, I've got a course called Herbal Actions, which
Hmm.
is really where I come to it's how I answer the question, what's the magic bullet herb that will cure me?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, there is no magic bullet herb, but what we can do is we can look at the categories of actions. What is a sedative? What is rubefacient? What is a purgative? What's a hypotensive? These are all actions, kind of the broad categories. And once you learn what those do, then you can look at the herbs that fit in those categories and you can make a strategy based on the person you're working with to put together remedies for them. So my herbal actions course goes over 35 herbal actions and it explains what the actions are. It gives examples of herbs and how to use them and then how they combine, how they mix and gel with other actions so that you get a really nice formula if you're building a formula. And then my big course, really the most comprehensive course, is what I'm launching now, um, this early spring, early winter. It's called the Community Herbalist Training Program. And this is what I always taught as an intensive. I would have 12 to maybe 20 students come, and we would do a 2 or 3 week intensive together in person here on Martha's Vineyard, where I live. And it goes over everything about anatomy and physiology with plants. So now this is online. The whole curriculum is online and it's a certificate course. So there's a certificate of completion at the end. I anticipate it takes between 6 and 9 months to complete. A whole lot of modules on based on body system. So respiratory, cardiovascular, skin, neuro and nervous system, digestion, endocrine, men's health, the basic body system. So it's the foundations of herbal medicine, and it's really meant for people who are ready to take that next deep dive into, well, how does this work and how does that work and what do I need to know? A lot of my students in the past have been healthcare practitioners. I've had a lot of pharmacists and nurses, aromatherapists, midwives, chiropractors, um, who want to integrate herbal medicine into what they do. They know the science, but they don't quite know the plants. So this blends, the science that they know in healthcare with the plants and how plants work. And I'm really excited about it. It's a course that's really comprehensive, but it's also very foundational and basic. So I call it beginner to intermediate. It's
Okay.
not advanced. I don't cover cannabis. It's not included. I don't cover cancer. But I do cover all of the basic common issues that you could experience in any body system, um, and the plants that address that based on the plant action.
Sounds super in depth. How long did it take to create all of that?
Well, the curriculum, like I said, I've been teaching for years,
Yeah.
so it was years and years coming together. But then to create it as an online, downloadable course,
Right.
that's taken the past year.
Did you have help with like the videography and stuff like that?
I had
Oh,
help with
nice.
videography and with the graphic design. Yeah, it wasn't something I could have done myself. So
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work.
it is. I'm really pleased with how it's turned out.
Great. So that's all hosted at hollybellebuono.com. where you could find about all your different courses, and those are hosted on the Kajabi platform. And then, so when someone purchases a course from you, goes inside of your interface, they'll see like video classes of you actually teaching on camera, and then like have different like written lessons and stuff like that.
Yeah, so most of them are video lessons. The Community Herbalist Training Program is video lessons as well as two of my books,
Okay,
An Herbalist Guide to Formulary and The Essential Herbal for Natural Health. Those are two printed books along with a printed student manual that get mailed to each student.
wow. Well, you did mention your books. How many books have you written?
7.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. I know we wanted to chat about one of your books specifically, which you kind of brought up earlier a little bit, but it's well, is there anything else you wanted to say about the school before we move on?
Just if anybody is interested, feel free to reach out to me. We
Okay.
can have a 15-minute free
Oh,
conversation
nice.
about it. If you have any questions, I can walk you through, any questions you might have before you decide to make the decision to enroll. Um,
Awesome.
or you can just enroll online at hollybellebuono.com, and they're all listed there along with all my business courses. They're listed as well.
Okay. And if someone wants to reach out to you, do you want to say your email here, or should they just fill
Sure.
out the contact form?
Yeah, no, it's holly at hollybellebuono.com.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, let's chat a bit about the book, Women Healers of the World, The Traditions, History, and Geography of Herbal Medicine. Now, as I was telling you before the show, we did have a copy of this in the Mountain Reserves. Actually, they sold, I don't know if they still do, but they definitely sold this book at one point.
Mhm.
Beautiful book, wonderful book. And I want to say you highlight, is it 31 women?
Yeah.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us more about the inspiration behind the book, writing the book, and maybe some of who's featured in the book as well?
This was one of my favorite projects. And the reason we're bringing it up now is because this year, 2024, is its 10-year anniversary.
Wow. Time
So,
flies.
yeah, it does. So, it
Crazy.
came out in 2014 and it won the Book of the Year award from the International Herb Association.
Wow.
And I was lucky enough, they invited me down to Florida to their annual meeting and banquet and presented me with the award. It was great. And so yeah, this was a 7-year research project. And I kind of did it on the side while I was running my apothecary and raising children. And um, I ended up interviewing, I guess it was 21 women who were alive at the time, and then featuring another
Hmm.
10 who were ancient women from the far past.
Okay.
And they were from 20 countries all around the world and 16 different healing traditions. So these women represented everything from Gaelic pharmacy to Polynesian herbal traditions to Tibetan herbal medicine to Western herbal medicine. I interviewed a woman from Gabon who practiced Gabon shamanism, midwifery, so many, 16, that it was just such an incredible learning experience. Um, I got to interview a lot of these women in person, so I did travel a little bit.
Wow.
And they're just the most inspiring people. And so it turned into this documentary book that is really a celebration of women and of herbal medicine and of folklore and tradition and empowerment. It just was a fantastic project that I was thrilled with, and I can't believe it's been 10 years. This is its 10th anniversary, and so on my blog, I'll be sharing excerpts from the book in the coming months to celebrate and just have fun with the process that it was.
Are there any particular women you'd like to highlight? Just for instance, I don't know if I want to just plug one of them, but I had the honor and fortune to meet the late Cascade Anderson Geller, and I want to say she was featured in the book as one of the 31 herbalists. Did you have a chance to hang out with her? Did you fly to Oregon and interview her or anything? Or
I've never been to Oregon because I
okay.
think if I went there, I would never leave.
I'm a lifelong Oregonian. I live in Wisconsin now, and yeah, it's beautiful out there.
I can only
Yeah,
imagine. It's a
yeah,
dream to go out to Oregon.
yeah.
No, I met her at different workshops.
Hmm.
One of the women that I would like to highlight is Doña Enriqueta
Okay.
Contreras. She's a Oaxacan, Zapotecan midwife and shaman.
Mm.
And I did meet her in person, not in Mexico, but at the at the International Symposium.
Mm.
She and her translator were there, Mary Margaret Navarre. And so the three of us got to talk about Dona Enriqueta's life, which is astounding. She has an incredible story that I feature in the book. And she is one of the strongest, most fierce women I have ever met.
Mm.
While I was interviewing her, we were there for a good 2.5 hours. It was probably 2 hours before she cracked a smile. I mean,
She's
she was
hardcore.
she was very hardcore and very intimidating. But
Yeah.
her world has been midwifery and standing up for women's rights and standing up for mothers and protecting a heritage of midwifery. And she has had to fight for it. And so she's really developed this incredibly intense character that is really admirable and value driven. She was an incredible woman. Definitely one of the most interesting people I interviewed. Another person I could highlight is Princess Basma of Jordan. I interviewed her by email back and forth. We had a very long email correspondence where she was sharing with me her family's history growing up in the deserts of Jordan, where there aren't a whole lot of plants. But what there is, they really learned how to use and make the most of. Um, and then she's been teaching her children how to use chamomile and how to. One of her legacies is conservation. So she was a key person in building a huge royal botanical garden in Jordan to bring back plants that were being lost due to habitat destruction and climate change. Really incredible women, people who are um, celebrating their traditions, keeping them going. Mary Beath was a woman who's passed away now, but she lived in Scotland. And when I interviewed her, she was one of the chroniclers or researchers of Gaelic pharmacy and really keeping that tradition alive and understanding its roots and how people used not just plants, but all sorts of natural substances that grow in the countryside for health and
What was
for
her name again?
Mary Beath,
Okay.
Beith.
So she was alive during the process of the book, and then she passed away recently. So did
Yeah.
you interview her then, or?
I did, yeah.
Wow,
Um,
awesome.
yeah, she was amazing. She was very down to earth, she worked for a newspaper. So she was
Okay.
really a reporter, and her specialty was Gaelic pharmacy. She had spent years
Wow.
researching it. Another woman that I interviewed before she passed away, again, was Mama Kia Ingenlath in
Hmm.
Peru. And she ran an orphanage in Cusco, Peru, as well as a soup kitchen. And her legacy was really raising 30 odd children as her own in this orphanage and teaching them herbal medicine and gardening.
Oh my goodness.
So
That's
just
incredible.
incredible people. Yeah. It was a fantastic project. I was really blessed to be able to do it. And the book is the culmination of that. Um, not to really plug the book, but to let
Please
people
plug.
know.
That's
You
what
know,
we're here for.
all right. If you're interested in getting the book, you can get it from me also at hollybellebono.com.
Okay.
I can mail you a signed copy. Um,
Nice.
it came out originally in a hardcover, now it's in paperback. Um, and it's just a thrill of a lifetime to be able to complete this book.
I guess you probably get asked this all the time, but how did you decide who was going to make the cut? I don't want to say it like that, but how did you decide? First of all, how did you discover these people? Because some of these stories you're sharing are just incredible, and I never heard of a lot of them. But then, yeah, how did you decide who was actually going to be in the book?
Yeah, I started with the women that I knew from
Okay,
being in herbal circles. So Rosemary
sure.
Gladstar
Right.
and um,
She's pretty famous, isn't she?
she's a little famous. She wrote the foreword for the book,
I
actually.
saw that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And then I just started telling people what I was doing, and it's amazing how small of a world we live in. You know, people would say, "Oh, I know this woman who does this, you
Right.
know, in this country." And it was really a word of mouth project where I got introduced to a lot of these people that I had never heard of before.
Not to put more work on you or anything, but do you ever plan on coming out with a second one, like a second edition with more women?
I thought about it for a long time, and I have a list of other women who would make it into a second edition. There are
Right.
some incredible people out there who I didn't get a chance to talk with for this book. But I don't have any plans at the moment for another
Okay.
edition. Yeah. I
Yeah,
have
you
actually I have another book coming out,
mm,
but it won't be until next year. It's not an herbal book per se, although it is inspired by herbalism. It's more about philosophy and the
mm.
idea of descent and resurrection.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, and where where we go on the hero's journey, basically. So if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell and the
Hmm.
hero's journey, he presents the steps you take on the hero's journey. It's a process that you go through toward maturity, right?
Okay.
Um, I I present the locations where you go. So there are five locations: the cavern, the deep, the vessel, the forest, and the labyrinth. It's all inspired by the seed, how a seed goes into the ground, into the darkness, it stays a while, and then sprouts back up. It's descent and resurrection. So that's what this book is going to explore. And I just signed the contract for it. I'm really
Nice.
excited. So it's going to be a year from now that it comes out.
Yeah, because you've written a bunch of herbals. You did the women's book. This sounds like totally on a different realm, but you did say it was influenced by the herbal community and your work in the herbal community, but it's not going to be herbalism per se.
No, it's more
Okay.
philosophy. Yeah.
Nice. That's really cool that your publisher still went for it. They're like, "Oh, Holly, we trust you," and yeah, so you just write about whatever you want at this point, probably.
And it is
Uh,
with Llewellyn. It's with Llewellyn Publishers who did
oh,
Llewellyn's Little Book of Herbs,
okay, yeah,
and the Herbalist Guide to Formulary.
nice. Do you ever think you'll write like a business book?
Possibly.
Okay,
I've been doing a lot of business coaching,
yeah,
I've got several business courses. Sell Confident, Sell Your Brand is coming out. Sell CEO is coming out. So that are business based. So if I were to write another book, possibly it would be more entrepreneurship,
boy.
but that's where I'm having a lot of fun right now.
So to those just listening and not reading the podcast description, Selle is spelled Selle, if I'm recalling correctly. And you can learn more about all of that, all of those offerings at hollybellebono.com as well. This question just came to mind. So your URL, your website is hollybellebono.com, and you've got your entrepreneur stuff on there. You've got your herbalism stuff on there. How do you see yourself as like being kind of a brand of two different spheres? Like, I feel like they marry very well together for you in particular. And I'm just kind of curious because sometimes I struggle with that. I'm like, with Herb Rally, there's these peripheral things that I want to do. And I'm like, oh, that might be too much of a stretch for my audience to really, appreciate or, get value out of. So how do you see Holly Bellebuono as a brand offering these two different types of services?
Well, I've struggled with it myself.
I bet. Yeah.
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 Um, Partly because people will put you in a niche,
Right.
they'll put you in a little drawer, which is so here's my herbalism drawer. I want to pull it out, and there's my teacher. And over here is a business drawer, and I want to pull that out, and I expect it to be a different teacher. But it doesn't have to be that way. Like you said, they blend or marry in certain
Yeah.
circumstances. And I I think that if people can be flexible, they can expand their brands in different directions,
Hmm.
but it takes a little finesse to make that happen. Um, it can involve having an entirely different audience, which is probably where my brand is going. I've got my
Yeah.
herbal audience, but really my business audience is a little bit different. Um, I've worked with my herbal clients as business clients, and I've done business coaching with my herbal students, which is
Hmm.
great. But my real business venture is really more for small to medium companies that want to be B Corps, for example, benefit corporations, or certified organic, or 1% for the planet. They're slightly bigger and they've got a purpose behind them,
Yeah.
the force for good kind of purpose,
Right.
where they need support with their branding or their storytelling or their, developing purpose throughout their departments. Um, pricing, distribution, ingredients and sourcing, HR, all of that needs to reflect their purpose. And so
Mhm.
that's where I see myself coaching and consulting to help businesses and nonprofits, um, achieve that kind of consistency across their brand.
Hmm. So you teach entrepreneurship. You got these various classes coming out and already released, but you also do coaching. Do you want to tell us more about your coaching services and who might benefit from them?
Yeah. Currently, I work with small businesses, startups, or businesses that have been around for say 5 years. They're
Hmm.
small, so they've got 5 employees or fewer, often just one. And I really try to work mostly with natural products makers, so crafters, herbalists. Um, when I do my consulting, I go more into textiles and like chocolate and cocoa and coffee and tea manufacturers and kind of bigger. But with my coaching, where we do one-on-one and I help people walk through the process of pricing or building their team or money mindset, that's one-on-one. And I'd like to be a good brainstorming platform for somebody, so that they can feel safe and welcoming in sharing their ideas, getting their ideas out, and then creating a strategy and a 90-day plan.
So do people just pay you like an hourly rate or you got them on like retainer or whatever? How does that work?
I've got a package. It's an 8-week
Okay.
package for
Okay.
2,500.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And
Also learn about that at hollybellebono.com.
right, people can
What were you
sign up
say?
there. Yeah, people can sign up there.
Okay.
You can go ahead and sign up for a package, or again, you can get in touch with me and we can have a free conversation about it beforehand to see if it's the right fit.
Okay. Awesome. Well, a couple more questions for you. This is also kind of in the business sphere. Maybe it's a broad or vague question. I don't know, but you could tell me. What makes a good brand, in your opinion, or how can one improve their brand if they already have like a business?
Yeah, that is a good question. Um, so a lot of people think brand means what their logo looks like,
Right. Yeah,
what's on your
totally.
business card, how is it designed?
Right.
And really, brand is a lot bigger than that. My focus on branding is on two things: story. So, what's your story? How do you share your story with your audience? What's your tone and voice when you share your story? And then purpose. What's
Mm,
your underlying reason for being? And how do you get your employees, your team, your partners to buy into that and share that with excitement? Um,
okay.
so, branding is a good brand is one that's instantly well known, and all the big corporations are like that. But for smaller, herbal apothecaries that aren't very well known, or they're known regionally or locally, it's just having that recognizability factor, that reputation in your region with your audience. That's a good brand. You don't have to be nationally known, but you do have to have the stickiness with your own audience.
I want to say I saw you do some webinar where you were talking about is it Marie Kondo, her website, the tidying up lady, which I
Yeah.
was very obsessed with for a while, the art of tidying up and or the magic of tidying up, something like that. And right when you mentioned her name, I instantly had this like thought of who this person is, the way she makes me feel, and basically, yeah, everything what she's about. And I guess that kind of really illustrated to me for what like a good, positive, high-end brand is, because she's really created like her own little magical universe, her own little corner of the world, and yeah, I could instantly like it conjured feelings for me and very positive feelings at that. So I feel like she's created a pretty solid brand, to say the
Yeah,
least. Yeah.
yeah, I do a number of those examples on my on the YouTube channel, and I
Yeah.
share them with my business clients. These kind of website walkthroughs where
Yeah.
I walk somebody, I'll walk you through somebody's website, say Marie Kondo or um, Magnolia. Uh,
Hmm.
what's her name? Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Gains, yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they've got
totally.
these empires.
Yeah,
They're true empires. They're enormous. But the
yeah,
way that they set themselves up and their businesses up and their tone of voice and their branding and their the feeling that they get across is really clear. And so those of us who run smaller businesses can really pick up hints and tips by looking at those.
definitely. All right, well, let's just kind of wrap things up. Just a little fun question. I'm curious. First of all, is Martha's Vineyard an island?
It is. There's
Okay,
no bridge.
yeah. What's that?
No bridge.
Nope. Oh, no bridge. All right, you gotta yeah, boat it out there.
Yeah.
What do you love most about living on Martha's Vineyard?
Um, well, in the summer, we get to go, we're 5 minutes from the beach and we can zip
Mm,
down there in the evening and eat our little picnic dinner in the sand. And it's very low key and fun. And in the winter, I love it because it's quiet and there are very
mm.
few people here.
So is there snow on the ground right now?
Not at the moment. It's
Okay, but
raining.
will there be? Does it snow there much or?
It used to. The past
Okay,
couple of years, the past maybe 5 years, it hasn't snowed nearly as much as it used to.
gotcha. It was never really on my radar, but Amanda and I, we like to watch like these. Well, you mentioned Chip and Joanna Gaines, those types of shows, like home shows and stuff like that, renovation type shows. And for whatever reason, there was a bunch of episodes where they took place in Martha's Vineyard, and every time I was just blown away by how
Really,
beautiful that place is. So,
it is gorgeous. It
yeah,
is gorgeous.
absolutely. Are you the only herbalist on the island?
No, there are
Okay,
several.
that's awesome. They're
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. It's a really gardening place. There are a lot of
Uh-huh.
farms, a lot of
That makes sense.
permaculture. Yeah. It's not like you think of Myrtle Beach with all the neon signs and all the hotels on the
Right, right.
it's not like that at all. There's more farms than anything.
Myrtle Beach, that's Virginia, is it not? Or am I?
That's South Carolina.
Oh, South. Oh, that's right. I've been there. Yeah, but I do picture that. Yep. I was thinking Virginia Beach. Okay, got it. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Holly. Thank you for coming on the Herbalist Hour. Did you have any like closing thoughts or things you'd like to impart to the audience before you get out of here?
Sure. Thank you, Mason. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to harken back, I guess, to the self-agency part that everybody has your unique spirit, something special about you that makes you um the person for your business or for clients or customers in your herbal world to be the go-to person and just know that you can do it 100% and have the self-confidence to shine in whatever it is you'll put your heart and mind to.
Great way to wrap up the show. I love the work that you're doing, Holly. Thanks so much for sharing everything that you've learned. And yeah, we'll end it there, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Herbalist Hour. Take care,
Thank
everybody. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Herb Rally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at Herb Rally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from Herb Rally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving texts, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.